Thanks for joining us, Myron, obviously. Tell me, let's go back a couple of years before you went to the US. Tell me how everything sort of came about. What were the first steps? Just give us a little bit of an insight into the entire process.
So I was in an academy back home at Nuts, and was obviously looking for a professional contract like a lot of people do in England. I unfortunately got released at 16 before the youth team stage, and was kind of in the situation like, what am I going to do? I ended up at a semi-professional program, Basford United, and was in their college program for 2 years. So that's how I ended up going to that route and carrying on playing.
Route? American, eh?
Yeah, I've been here long enough now. So I was there for 2 years. In my first year at Basford, we had a company come in that offered to help us go to America. And obviously at this point I was like, I just want to keep playing and get my education, which I think's massive, which obviously if you're not going to go to university back home and you still want to play, then this is a big option for you guys to, take up and take the opportunity. And so I started the process in my first year at Basford to come out to America, because I knew straight away, it's what I wanted to do. And signed up in the December and started the process basically to get it started as quickly as possible, a year before I could even come out here. And then I left in 2016. I headed out here.
So why did you think it was a better option for you rather than staying at Basford? Why did you think America was something that would be more beneficial for you?
Well, at Basford, I managed to actually play some first team games and get into the semi-pro football. But I mean, the level obviously is still quality to play in non-league football in England. I don't disagree with that. It's just I think that if I'd have stayed in England, I don't think I'd have decided to just go to uni, because I wanted to play too. And I think being able to do both as like a student athlete out in America is such a great thing, because you get your education whilst being able to play for another 4 years. And the level out here is quality. I mean, some of the teams we played and some of the facilities you go to better than most of the places in non-league football, if not even some of the professional teams that we've played at before. So that's why I decided that, once I saw that was an opportunity to come out here and play these sorts of against teams, players and facilities that are available, it wasn't even a question anymore. So
you went to Delta State University. They're on a Division 2 program. Talk to me a little bit about the standard in comparison to perhaps the UK semi-professional football. Would you say it's on a par? Would you say it's below?
I'd definitely say on a par, if not. It's a little different style about here. English football is very physical. And I'm not saying that American, like the USA soccer standard isn't physical, but you have a lot of athletes out here. So you have guys that, technically wise, they may not be as good as some of the English guys or other national guys, but fitness level wise, they'll run all day. They'll play for 90 minutes and outrun you, and they're just so fit. I think that's part of the American game is they are athletes. Mm-hmm. So you're going to get the ones that are technical too, but athlete wise, they can be there up the top with anyone, I'd say. Level wise, some of the teams we've played, I mean, our conference is very tough. We've had a lot of teams go to regionals, played against national teams, like national champs. We beat 2 years ago, and then last year they won, and that was Basford University. So it just shows you can play against some of the best teams in the country still at the Division 2 level. Mm-hmm. So I'd say at least on par, if not better, in some circumstances.
Bro, and how did you find adapting to the US for the first, let's say in your first year? How did you find adapting to, the lifestyle, America, living away from home? How did you find all that experience?
I think the first couple of months, they're going to be the toughest. You spend a lot of time around your team. It's not like in England where, say you may train a Tuesday or Thursday and play on a Saturday. Here you're with your team pretty much every day. So the guys, you get close, you become a family. In terms of like the lifestyle every day, obviously you wake up, go to class usually, classes usually mornings, afternoons, practice is usually every day in the afternoons during the week. And then on weekends you have games, usually Friday and Sunday we play over a weekend, whether we travel or whether we're at home. So it's busy. and you got to stay on top of things. But once you adapt to it after the first couple of months, it just becomes the norm. And that's why I love it so much. I mean, obviously, I've just finished up playing my 4 years, and I'm kind of lost as to what I need to do now, because I'm obviously going to the coaching side, but playing side is kind of like, where did them 4 years go? It became just regular everyday life.
So what did you study, and how did you find that in comparison to what you'd done perhaps here in the UK? Did you do any BTECs, any A-levels before you went out there, or?
So I did my BTEC at college in sports science, level 3, extended BTEC, and I decided to do exercise science out here.
Okay.
So there's some similar things. I wanted to keep going in sports science. There's some similar classes, like I say. In terms of classes are not very different, I wouldn't say. Just the information and the stuff that you learn is a little different to obviously back home.
Mm-hmm.
But level-wise, I mean, I found it pretty easy, to be fair. I wouldn't say that's going to be the circumstances for everyone, of course, but as long as you study and you work hard, you can get by easily with the classes, I think. So
yeah.
And then now I'm just started my master's program in sports management, so that's like the next level up, and it's a little harder. There's a lot more work involved in hours studying and time spent on what you need to get done. But again, if it's something that people want to do, then I suggest getting into it.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of talk to us about being on a master's program, because I haven't really spoken to anyone who's been on a master's program. Talk to me about that. Is it pretty much the same thing as being on an undergrad program? Was there any differences?
There's a few differences. So undergrad, you're going to do prerequisites before you get into some of your other courses for your major. So like you'll spend 2 years doing like gen ed classes, like your sciences, your maths, your Englishes, as well as obviously the majors, like classes for your major. So mine's obviously exercise science, others are like business, whatever it be. Whereas master's program, you've already got the prerequisites for most classes, so it's less hours of classes, but more intense for studying and time. So usually for undergrad, you're going to do anywhere between 12 and 20 hours, I think, of hours of studying per semester, whereas undergrad's anywhere from like 9 to 12. And that's just because of the intensity of the courses and the amount of time you need to spend working on them classes. But obviously, with you already having an undergrad degree, you don't do prerequisites usually for master's degrees. Yeah. So.
Okay. And you're doing coaching amongst everything as well? You're still playing as well whilst you're in your master's, or are you just coaching?
So I just finished with my eligibility. So that was my last season, my 4th season. So I'm done playing as it is right now for college level. Obviously, I can play in the summer or any teams I can find. But for right now, I'm just, probably going to hang my boots up for a little bit and decided to go into coaching. So I'm looking to be a graduate assistant, hopefully at some point. I've had discussions with a few people about doing that, obviously getting involved in college teams to be an assistant for a team. Right now, I currently coach rec soccer for kids, so I have an under-8 team. I've been doing that 2.5 years. And then I also just took a head coach role at high school, like 30 minutes away from here. Okay. So our season starts Wednesday, actually. So I've been coaching them for the past couple of weeks and getting to know them and getting used to what I need to do with them. High school is a little different, so
win the league.
So it's new, but so hopefully we'll have a good season. They finished second last year, so we'll see how that goes.
Sounds good. So are you planning on staying in the US after your masters, or you got plans to come back to the UK?
I'd like to stay. I'd like to. Obviously, it depends on job opportunities and what's available to me. I have another 1.5 years of my masters to complete. And like I say, I want to get into coaching. That's what I want to do. I may not be able to play anymore, but if I can coach and stay involved in it, then that's what I'd like to do. So the plan is to hopefully stay. We'll see how it goes, and we'll take it from there. But the plan is to stay.
Okay. And talk to me about the whole funding of the program. So what kind of scholarship did you get for, your undergrad? How's it currently working with your masters? Is there funding towards that as well? Can you explain to us a little bit more about that?
So I came out on just purely soccer scholarship. There is educational scholarships available too. Obviously at each institution that varies, so each school that depends on what they have available. I would recommend to any guys coming out, apply for as many as possible on the education side as well. There's loads that are available. So I came out purely on soccer scholarship for my first 2 years. Then I got a one-time educational scholarship that had to do like 4 hours of study hall a week, which is not a big deal. You go to study hall, do your homework, and I got money for it to help me out pay for school.
Yeah.
I was lucky to graduate in 3 and a bit years for my undergrad, so that's what I'm ahead for my master's right now.
Okay.
And currently got a graduate assistant position in my department, which pays my tuition to do my master's. So I'm not paying anything right now to do my master's degree, so I'm quite fortunate in the sense with that. But while I was playing, I was pretty much purely on soccer scholarship. So when you talk to schools, try and, talk to the coaches as much as possible and find out what you're going to get, because it will help you in terms of being able to understand if you can afford to go to a school, or if there's other scholarships available, or if the chances are, if you can get it increased. Mine, after 2 seasons, I had 2 good seasons, so I got it slightly increased, which obviously helped. My school is fairly inexpensive, to be fair. But just because it's cheaper doesn't mean that, the standard of the school and whatever else is different. It just, every school is different. So ours is a public university, which means that, like, in terms of expenses, it's more affordable for people in the United States, whereas other private schools usually can be more expensive. But yeah, so that's how I paid for my school, was mainly scholarships through soccer.
So what kind of scholarship did you get on a percentage?
I think if I worked it out, it was about 70% at the time, I think. Okay. At the time when I first came out.
So that's good.
It wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad. I'd have to write it down and work it out exactly. Yeah. But the tuition has changed slightly since I've been here. So when I first came here, it was about $500-600 less than it is now. It's gone slightly up. Okay. But that happens with public schools too. Tuition can change slightly every year by a couple of percent. But yeah, I was mainly on my soccer scholarship, which, like I say, if I worked it out, it was about 70, I'd say.
So you haven't got 50 grand worth of debt like most UK students have here.
Correct. I've not got a lot of debt, luckily. That's one thing I will say is, back home, obviously, if I'd have stayed, I'd have probably had a lot of debt if I was at university. But out here, you usually have to pay up front. So that's a big thing to consider too. But fortunately, no, I don't have thousands of pounds of debt. I have a small amount, but it's nothing that's going to put me in the hole for a long period of time. So I'm fortunate with that too.
Sounds good. And talk to us a little bit more about your experiences over in the US, outside of maybe university. What have you been able to do? Have you been able to travel around? Give us a little bit of an insight into that, maybe.
Yeah. So I live with 3 Americans. So experiences like Thanksgiving, which we're about to have next week, actually. I've been home to one of my roommates 3 times in Louisiana. So, I've experienced New Orleans, which is obviously a big city, which is famous pretty much worldwide. Some of the places we've seen, like in the area, like he lives near some of the swamps in Louisiana, so we've been on gator tours. We've been to the basketball, so NBA. I've been to a baseball game in Florida. The sports out here are completely different to obviously what we're back home. In terms of, we have ice hockey, we have football, and rugby, of course. But other than that, like in terms of sports out here, it's crazy. Like the franchises and the amount of fans they get. You're talking like hundreds of thousands of people coming to a game. Been to an NFL game, the New Orleans Saints. So experiences like that, like you're not going to get back home. It's just, it's something that I'm never going to forget, memories wise. I've been, spring break's a big one, which a lot of guys will probably hear about.
In Cancun?
Spring break and some of the crazy stuff that happens on spring break. Yes, some of the stories will be true.
Love it.
We've done, last year we did Panama City Beach in Florida for a week, and we rented a condo, and it was pretty fun. So that's something that's like break in March, May time. And everyone just goes, and just has fun. So that's something that if guys are looking to come out, that they get to experience, outside of college. Obviously, they have to be safe and be smart, but at the same time, it's still, it's fun. So
yeah, you don't want your coach to find out what you've been doing during spring break, do you?
Trust me, we've had plenty of stories that somehow reached that coach. But yeah, you don't want to get back to it. That's one thing you don't get back to. And some of the stories he's told us before when we've gone on spring break from guys before, they get around pretty quick and pretty easy. But yeah, you don't want to get back to your coach.
How did you find your coach in terms of the style and, how did he treat you being an international student athlete?
My coach is actually Scottish.
Okay.
So that's one thing you'll find as well as a lot of international coaches out here. In our conference, we've got some of the coaches. There's an Irish coach and there's a couple of English coaches, and then obviously our coach is Scottish. A couple of Americans too. He was great. I mean, when I talked to him, he talked about the program as he'd just basically taken over here. He's been here about 5 or 6 years. The year before, the coach got hired to another school because he took us our school to the playoffs, made the final. But yeah, he's great. Hopefully, obviously, I hope to get an assistant with him role. That's the hopes. So his style, a little different to what I'd experienced back home. But he'd been out here a couple of years and knew what it takes to try and win in a tough conference.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I adapted to pretty fairly well. We had my freshman year, we had about 10 English guys. It was a big group of us. There's about 5 of us now. But there's a big mix of internationals. So, fitting a lot of different guys that have experienced different things into one style is, it's a tough job to do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we got on great. He's treated me great over my 4 years. I go and talk to him in the office if we need to, whatever it is, he's there. But that's a big thing, I think, for coaches. And, being away from home, they've got to treat you like, you got to be there for them. So,
yeah.
So having that was great. So, yeah, we've got on pretty well over the past couple of years. So, one thing I would say is when you're getting recruited is make sure you have phone calls and Skype calls, FaceTime calls, whatever it is with coaches if you can. Get to know them as much as you can, talk to them. You're coming a long way, across the world to come play for someone, so you've got to get on with them and, be able to work with them. So that's one thing I'd say is try and do as much as possible is communicate with them.
Yeah, I mean, that's something we always do with our athletes. We always sort of put them in touch with the coaches. We give them, guideline questions, what to ask the coach, what the coach might ask you, because at the end of the day, it's a little bit of an interview process, isn't it? He tries to find out more about your personality, what you can like as a player. So that's always something we help our athletes with, and it's being part of the Athletes USA program. Brill. So final thing, what are your top tips and don't do's? Perhaps.
Top tips. I mean, be on time to class. Make sure you go to class. Make sure you're there at practice as much as possible. Seasons are intense. It's 3.5 months here in America. It's not like back home where we play all year round. Make sure you look after your bodies. Eat right. Train well. If you get injuries or niggles, go see the trainers out here. We have a big trainer room, so we have like 8 athletic trainers who look after us. There's ice baths. That's going to be a big one because pre-seasons are tough.
Mm-hmm.
Every day for 2-3 weeks, 3 sessions a day usually. You got to look after your bodies to make it last. I had a couple of injuries over my 4 years. Fortunately, was able to play all of my games despite having a few knocks and bumps,
Mm-hmm.
That's part of it. But just make sure you look after yourselves, eating wise, sleep wise. Hopefully it'll help your career for playing soccer wise. And then education is important. You can't neglect the education side just because you're an athlete out here. Yes, we kind of get treated differently to normal students because we're away for a lot of the time during seasons and stuff. But you still got to make sure you do your work and get good grades. Don't do's. Just be smart while you're in season. We've had guys who, decide to do things they shouldn't during season, and it kind of affects their careers and affects their school wise.
Mm-hmm.
Just when you're in season, just be smart would be my tips and advice for that one. But in terms of anything else, be involved, get involved, make yourself known. My school is about 5,000 people, and I know quite a lot of people, not just through athletics, but through being in class too. The sooner you make friends and get to know people and better connections you have, it'll help. I mean, it's helped me to be able to get, the coaching job that I have right now. So, other than that, just enjoy it. I mean, and take the risk, take the leap of faith and come out here. because it changes your life, and you won't regret it, and you'll love every moment like I have. I mean, I've got 4 years of memories, and I've still got another couple of years here, so looking forward to seeing what else happens. Hopefully I can have a life out here, and see where it takes me. So my advice would be just don't be too worried about what can happen, and just get out here as soon as possible, pretty much.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Well, thanks a lot, Myron. Appreciate that. Obviously, hopefully that's given everyone again another insight. Like I said, 4th interview. I think the picture's starting to build here. Everyone's, really enjoyed their time over in the US. Been a great life experience. It's not by chance, that isn't, in my opinion. So obviously there's a reason. It's a good system. Like I always say, it's not for everyone. But there's certainly a lot to be gained, and looks like you had a great experience. So thanks again for that, pal. Hopefully it's been useful for everyone. And yeah, see you soon.